Hey there everyone, it's Alex here, and I'm really excited to dive into something deeply personal and transformative with you today. Welcome to this episode, which is all about the art of letting go, not forgetting the past, but freeing ourselves from its weight so we can live fully in the present. If you've ever felt stuck, replaying old regrets, heartbreaks, or moments you can't quite shake, this one's for you. Maybe it's a memory that stings, a loss that lingers, or something you can't even name but feels heavy in your chest. I've been there, and I know how it feels to carry that baggage, sometimes without even realizing it. Today, I'm going to walk you through why letting go is so hard, what it's costing you to hold on, how to recognize when you're stuck, and most importantly, how to start releasing that grip on the past. Plus, I'll share some stories, including my own, about what happens when you finally set yourself free. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's explore this together. This is going to be a journey. Let's start with the big question. Why is letting go so darn difficult? I mean, we all want to move on, right? We want to feel light, free, and ready for what's next. But something keeps us tethered to the past. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I've learned it's because the past isn't just a collection of events. It's emotional territory. It's woven into our memories, our sense of who we are, and sometimes even our deepest pain. When I was younger, I went through a rough breakup. For months, I couldn't stop replaying conversations, wondering what I could have done differently. It wasn't just about missing the person. It was like I was holding on to the pain because letting go felt like losing a part of myself. Psychologically, there are a few reasons we cling to the past. First, we're afraid of forgetting. It sounds strange, but sometimes we hold on to pain because we think it keeps a memory or a person alive. I used to think letting go of that breakup meant erasing the good times, like those late-night talks or shared dreams. But holding on didn't bring those moments back. It just kept me stuck in the hurt. Second, we often think holding on to the past gives us control. If I kept analyzing what went wrong, maybe I could prevent it from happening again. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Instead, it trapped me in a cycle of overthinking. And third, sometimes we haven't fully processed the emotions tied to the past. Unprocessed grief, anger, or shame can act like glue, keeping us stuck until we face it head-on. I remember talking to a friend who's a therapist, and she said something that stuck with me. Holding on to the past is like carrying a backpack full of rocks. At first, you don't notice the weight because you're used to it. But over time, it slows you down, exhausts you, and keeps you from climbing the hills you want to reach. The truth is, letting go isn't about erasing what happened. It's about changing how we carry it. It's a skill, one that takes awareness, practice, and giving yourself permission to release. The heavy cost of holding on. So, what happens when we don't let go? When we keep dragging that emotional backpack around? I'll be honest, it's not pretty. I've seen it in my own life and in the stories of others. Holding on to the past comes with a steep price, and it affects every part of who we are. Let's break it down. First, there's the mental drain. When you're constantly reliving old pain, whether it's a regret, a betrayal, or a loss, it's like your brain is stuck on a loop. I used to spend hours replaying a moment from my first job, where I messed up a big presentation. I'd lie awake at night, cringing at every word I stumbled over, every awkward pause. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was exhausting. That mental energy could have been spent on something creative or joyful, but instead I was giving it away to a moment that was long gone. Second, holding on blocks your growth. You can't fully step into who you're meant to be if you're still clinging to an old version of yourself. After that breakup I mentioned, I was so focused on who I was with that person that I couldn't see the possibilities in front of me. I turned down opportunities to meet new people, try new things, because I was still living in the shadow of that relationship. It was like I was trying to preserve a chapter that had already ended, instead of writing a new one. Third, there's the risk of self-sabotage. This one's sneaky. When you hold on to the past, you might unconsciously recreate it. For example, if you were hurt by someone who broke your trust, You might approach new relationships with suspicion, pushing people away before they even get close. I did this for years without realizing it. Every time I met someone new, I'd brace myself for disappointment, assuming they'd let me down like others had. It wasn't until I started letting go of that old story that I could build healthier connections. And finally, holding on can lead to bitterness and resentment. This is the poison that seeps into your relationships, not just with others, but with yourself. I remember feeling so angry at myself for that failed presentation, blaming myself for not being good enough. That resentment made me doubt my abilities, and it took years to rebuild that confidence. Letting go doesn't mean you condone what happened or pretend it didn't hurt. It means you refuse to let it define your future. You deserve peace more than you deserve to keep reliving pain. Okay, so how do you know if you're still holding on to something? Sometimes it's obvious, but other times it's so subtle, you don't even realize it. I used to think I was over certain things, only to find out they were still pulling my strings. Here are some signs to watch for. And trust me, I've been guilty of a few of these myself. First, do you replay conversations or events in your head like a broken record? Maybe it's an argument you had years ago, or a moment you wish you could redo. I used to obsess over a conversation with a friend, where I said something thoughtless. I'd replay it, imagining what I should have said instead. That's a classic sign you're still tethered to the past. Second, do you feel a strong emotional reaction when a certain topic or person comes up? Maybe your stomach twists when you hear their name, or you feel a wave of anger or sadness. For me, it was hearing about my old workplace. I'd get this knot in my chest even years later. That's your body telling you there's something unresolved. Third, do you define yourself by something that happened to you? Like, I'm the person who got fired, or I'm the one who got betrayed. I used to carry my breakup like a badge, as if it was the defining chapter of my story. But here's the thing, you are not your past. You are so much more than what happened to you. Fourth, do you avoid new experiences because you're afraid of repeating the past? Maybe you don't apply for a new job because you're scared of failing again. Or you avoid dating because you don't want to get hurt. I did this after my job loss. I stopped taking risks because I was terrified of another flop. That fear was a sign I hadn't let go. And finally, do you use the past as an excuse to stay stuck? Like, I can't move forward because this happened to me. I've been there, telling myself I couldn't trust people because of one bad experience. But that was just a story I was telling myself to avoid the hard work of moving on. Awareness is the first step to letting go. You can't release something you don't even realize you're holding. So take a moment right now, pause this podcast if you need to, and ask yourself, what am I carrying that's weighing me down? What story am I still telling myself? Naming it is the beginning of freedom. Now let's get to the good stuff. How do you actually let go? This isn't some magical one-time fix. It's a process, and it takes intention. I've tried a lot of things over the years, some that worked and some that didn't, and I've pulled together a practical step-by-step approach that I wish I'd known sooner. Here's a 5-step process to start letting go, plus a few extra tools I've picked up along the way. Step 1, name it. You can't let go of something if you don't know what it is, so get specific. Are you holding on to a person, like an ex or someone who hurt you? An outcome, like a missed opportunity? Or an emotion, like guilt or anger? I remember sitting down one day and writing out exactly what I was holding on to from that breakup. It wasn't just my ex. It was the guilt of not being enough and the fear of being alone. Naming it made it real, and that was the first step to facing it. Step 2, feel it fully. This one's tough, but it's crucial. You have to let yourself feel the emotions tied to the past without running from them. No distractions, no numbing with Netflix or scrolling. Just sit with it. I used to avoid feeling the sadness of my job loss because I thought it would overwhelm me. But one day, I let myself cry, really cry, and it was like a weight lifted. Try this. Find a quiet space, take a few deep breaths, and let the emotions come. It's okay if it's messy. You're allowed to feel. Step 3, rewrite the meaning. This is where the magic happens. Instead of seeing the past as a failure or a wound, Ask yourself, what did this teach me? What gift or lesson can I take from it? For me, that failed presentation taught me resilience and the value of preparation. My breakup taught me about self-worth and what I truly want in a partner. Reframing the story doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it purpose. Try journaling about this. Write down the event, then write what you learned or how it made you stronger. Step 4. Practice release rituals. This is about making letting go tangible. One thing that worked for me was writing a letter to my younger self, the one who felt so broken after that breakup. I poured out everything, the hurt, the regrets, the hopes. Then I burned the letter, safely, of course. It felt like I was physically releasing that weight. Other rituals might include speaking your truth out loud, like saying, "I forgive you, and I'm moving on," or even doing something physical, like yoga or a long walk, to release tension. Find what feels right for you. Step 5. Create new anchors. Letting go means replacing old patterns with new ones. If you're letting go of a belief, like "I'm not good enough," replace it with a new one, like "I am worthy of love and success." For me, after letting go of my job loss, I started a new habit of celebrating small wins, like finishing a project or learning a new skill. You can also create symbols of healing, like wearing a piece of jewelry that reminds you of your strength or keeping a gratitude journal. These anchors ground you in the present and future, not the past. Here's an extra tool I love: mindfulness. It's about staying present instead of getting lost in the past. Try this simple exercise. For 5 minutes a day, focus on your breath. When your mind wanders to old memories, gently bring it back. Over time, this trains your brain to stay in the now. Another technique is visualization. Imagine putting your pain in a box, closing it, and setting it adrift on a river. It sounds woo-woo, but it helped me release some stubborn emotions. Letting go isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a choice you might have to make every day, sometimes every hour, until one day you realize you're not carrying that weight anymore. Be patient with yourself. You're doing the work, and that's what counts. To make this real, let me share a couple of stories, starting with my own. A few years ago, I lost a job I loved. It wasn't just a job, it was my identity. I was the guy who had it all together, the one who always delivered. When I got let go, it shattered that image. For months, I replayed every mistake, every meeting, wondering what I could have done differently. I was angry, ashamed, and stuck. Then I started journaling. I wrote about the pain, the fear, but also what I wanted next. I realized I wasn't mourning the job. I was mourning who I thought I was. Letting go meant accepting that I could be someone new, someone even better. I took a leap and started freelancing, something I'd always been too scared to try. It wasn't the end, it was my invitation to begin again. Another story comes from a friend of mine, Sarah. She went through a devastating divorce. For years, she held on to the anger, replaying every argument, every betrayal. It wasn't until she started therapy that she faced the grief head-on. She did a release ritual, where she wrote a letter to her ex, forgiving him, not for his sake, but for hers. She burned it, and something shifted. She started painting again, something she hadn't done since the marriage. Today, she runs an art studio and says letting go gave her back her creativity, her joy, her life. Then there's Mark, someone I met at a workshop. He grew up in a tough household, where he was told he'd never amount to anything. For years, he carried that voice, sabotaging every opportunity because he believed he'd fail. Through mindfulness and reframing, he started challenging that story. He wrote down every negative belief and replaced it with a truth. I am capable. I am enough. Today, he's a mentor for kids from similar backgrounds, helping them rewrite their own stories. These stories remind us that letting go isn't about forgetting or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about choosing freedom over pain, possibility over regret. It's about saying, I am more than what happened to me. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. You are allowed to let go. You're allowed to forgive, whether it's someone else or yourself, even if no one apologizes. You're allowed to grow beyond the person you were, the mistakes you made, or the pain you've carried. Letting go isn't weakness. It's one of the strongest things you can do. It's saying, I choose peace. I choose me. I've been on this journey myself, and I know it's not easy. There are days when the past creeps back, whispering old doubts or regrets. But every time you choose to release, you get a little lighter, a little freer. Start small. Notice where you're holding on. Try one of the steps we talked about. Name it, feel it, rewrite it, release it, or anchor yourself in something new. You don't have to do it all at once. Just take the first step. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and give yourself permission to be free. This is Alex, signing off.